because I want to avoid the hundreds, thousands of people coming by road, rail and air to the NEC. I'm coming in the back way. At Birmingham this year, the emphasis is on selling. In the 7 NEC halls, there are 340 stands representing 40 countries. But of course, the UK car market at the moment isn't particularly healthy. Last month, it was down 13.5%, and the figures for 1990 so far, down 12.5%. So the salesmen here really are super keen to move all this metal. However, having said that, things are not at all depressed, because Birmingham is 1 month earlier this year. It's now ahead of Paris, and it means that all the major manufacturers are choosing the NEC to launch some very exciting new models. Traditionally, the major manufacturers spend an awful lot of money on their stands. Ford must have forked out millions for this giant. However, they explain that the cost is justified because it expresses their optimism in the British car industry and their own confidence in the future. And after all, they are launching this year the car that they hope will continue to be Britain's best-selling model. The Escort in its sporty guise is part of their centrepiece here. And there's also a most bizarre leisure vehicle that's got a barbecue, an awning and a picnic table. However, we are interested in the more conventional LX version.
The cars don't look spectacularly different. It isn't like when the Sierra replaced the old Cortina, but then of late Ford have tended to be rather cautious and conservative. But there's some nice fine-tuning both inside and out, and I think they look a little sharper than they did. They've added a few inches widthways and in the height, and it's more aerodynamically sound too. Very steeply raked windscreen, and because that could cause a problem with the inside of the car getting a bit hot, they've paid a lot of attention to ventilation, and in fact air conditioning is an optional extra in the top of the range models. Inside the car, the fascia has been remodelled, but not enough to frighten any Ford aficionados, and the seats have been remoulded, so they do feel very comfortable. There's a nice little extra in the top of the range cars too, that the steering column moves for you. It should be a more comfortable ride altogether, because they've repositioned the wheels as they did with the Fiesta to provide better tracking, and they've paid more attention to car security this time too. There's a similar range of engines as before, but no price rise. But then Ford have had 3 price rises over the last 12 months, so they're not exactly due for one. So a 1400 version of this will set you back about 9,500.
So what's the difference between the elegant mountain bike and the car? Well, the answer is just £1. $2,999 buys you the least expensive car at the show, the Yugo Tempo. Originally, they were going to make a limited edition of 500. Now they've extended the offer to the end of the month. Oh, and the bike, well, that was designed by Audi rally champion Walter Röhrl. It's all titanium, and it's yours for just £3,000 as a listed Audi accessory.
Volkswagen Polo has been around 15 years now, no less, and in that time an astonishing 2.8 million of them have been sold. Now comes the launch of a new Polo. Well, it's certainly a new look Polo. It's had quite a facelift. There are new body panels, front and rear, new bumpers. It's altogether more aerodynamically sound. The range is wider too, from the booted saloon there through to the little hatchback. And in 2 years' time, apparently, Volkswagen are going to launch a completely new version of this car. But for me, the real interest doesn't just lie in the new styling. It's in this area here, down by the exhaust. It's very refreshing in an age where car companies tend to make extravagant claims for style and performance, that Volkswagen are making claims for cleanness and safety. They say this is the first full range of small cars that are going to be fitted with catalytic converters and fuel injection as standard. So it's curtains for the carburettor as far as Volkswagen are concerned. In Inside, the Polo's looking smarter too. There's a new dashboard design, altogether much more stylish. There's a new suspension setting, and perhaps most important, there's a new brake servo. Good news for the lighter foot, in other words, us women drivers who've been complaining about it for the last 15 years. I think they'd have done something about it a bit sooner if it had been the men. These will all be on the road from mid-November.
Another facelift comes for the Spanish-built Vauxhall Nova. It was first introduced in 1982, but it's recently undergone a major update for the 90s. There are 20 models, saloons and hatches, and the engines range from 1 litre to 1.6. But with this new model, the Flare, Vauxhall are concentrating on fashion and colour coordination, right through the bumpers, the wing mirrors, and when you look inside, matching door panels, seats, and even the gear knob. The Nova will be introduced from November, the starting price of £6,200. However, it's not all about facelifts in this sector. Chris has discovered something entirely new from the French.
Most new super minis are getting bigger, heavier and more refined, and Renault's new offering in this class, the Clio, is following the trend. Renault say it's a complete break in image from the car it largely replaces. Renault 5's been around for about 18 years now, and in that time it's become very much loved. Now the Clio will obviously have a very hard act to follow. I have to say it does look a little bit Japanesey. That may not be a coincidence. A senior French engineer remarked to me that since the French weren't allowed to buy many Japanese cars, Renault had gone ahead and built one for the French market. For the moment, the 5 will continue to be made in its more basic versions, like the Campers and as the high-performance V8 Turbo. The Clios I have driven handled well and gave a good ride over French secondary roads. They were also quiet and well able to tackle long motorway journeys, which are often rather tiring in cars of this size. Boot space is good too, with room for 2 large suitcases and extra bags. Inside there's plenty of room in the front, but the shape of the car means rather cramped headroom in the back and rather poor visibility. The dashboard will be familiar to existing Renault owners. The Clio uses some new versions of Renault's highly rated Energy engine, as introduced on the 19 and now available in 1.4 and 1.2 capacities. In France, the car will need to compete against the Peugeot 205, which alone accounts for 1 in 10 cars sold there. But of course, when it goes on sale in Britain in March, the toughest opposition will be from Ford's Fiesta, the Vauxhall Nova and Rover's new Metro.
Geisha, a word that conjures up images of traditional Japan. However, this is not the geisha. This is the geisha, once a method of transportation for nobles and officials. It was pulled by oxen and people. Mazda have taken the concept one stage further, and here we have a futuristic people carrier. It'll take 6 adults, 4 adults plus 2 children and loads of luggage. It's got 4-wheel steering and 4-wheel drive. They say that it shuns the concept that if it's spacious, it has to look like a box. Well, now, thanks to Mazda's Geisha, you'll be able to boast to the neighbours that you've got a triple rotary wankle, because the engine produces over 200 brake horsepower. Mazda are very keen to really establish themselves in the prestige car sector, and many of the features on the Geisha will be seen in models that they will be introducing in the future.
There's always plenty of celebrations going on at motor shows, and Suzuki certainly aren't left out this year because it's their 70th birthday. As a little present to themselves, they brought this over from Japan. It's their concept car, the Constellation, and very pretty it is too, with that striking colour, aerodynamically sound shape, and tyres that have been specially developed for the car to give it both on and off-road use. Underneath the bonnet, there's an impressive 3-litre V6 engine, and it's likely that the technology used to develop that engine will find its way into future Suzuki models. They haven't given us a concept of the price, though.
Well, of course, money really was no object when Mitsubishi developed this concept car, the HSR2, which they showed us last year. There was a great deal of interest in it, not just because it's got a 350 brake horsepower engine, which gives it a maximum speed of 260 miles an hour, but for the engineering technology contained within it. Now, apart from the 4-wheel drive and 4-wheel steer, it also had computer-controlled aerodynamic aids. Now, just 1 year on from that concept car, here's the production reality, the 3000 GT. As you'd expect, Four-wheel drive again, four-wheel steer, active suspension, and the same computer control of the aerodynamics. At the front, the angle of the front spoiler changes according to speed, and at the back, the rear spoiler changes position, again, according to the speed of the car. Whilst we're at the back of the car, the silencer is very interesting. You can adjust the exhaust note on the car, blast along through the countryside. When you come to a town, turn it down to a gentle burble. This car won't be available on the British market for some 18 months. It's got to get through homologation yet. There's great demand from the Japanese production for the American market.
It's barely 4 years now since the first British-made Nissans rolled off the line at their factory in the northeast of England. Now an all-new model, the Primera, is set to replace the rather old-fashioned Bluebird, not just on our British roads, but in the export markets of Europe too. Nissan currently employs 2,700 people at Sunderland, and by next year they intend to produce over 100,000 Primeras, the majority of which are for export. 80% of the car will be local content. The designers have paid special attention to suspension, which is borrowed in part from their prize-winning 300 ZX sports car, and it certainly holds its own on the bumpy roads. It's got a low coefficient of drag, 0.29, for those of you who are interested in the figures, and that's going to provide high stability in crosswinds. There are three engine options, the 1.6 with a top speed of 115 miles per hour, and that's 0 to 60 in just over 10 seconds, and a 2-litre engine, which in the top of the range version can do 137 miles per hour, and that's 0 to 60 in just over 8 seconds. Although Nissan hate to hear it said that this car looks like a Cavalier, that comparison will undoubtedly be made. But as the Cavalier is doing rather well at the moment, that comparison can't be bad. And if this one isn't to your taste, there's also a hatchback version, which has been specially developed for us here in Europe.
I'm pleased to say I've discovered three interesting and really useful accessories. The first one is called Driver's Mate. You lock the wheel, pop it over the top, et voila! You've got a desk if you're a sales rep, or you could put drinks on there, have a picnic if you like to do that sort of thing in your car, and it goes on sale in November. Good stuff. And now to a subject that's very close to my heart, child safety. It totally defeats me that any parent goes driving with a child on board that is not adequately restrained. Now there is absolutely no excuse, certainly on economic grounds, because here we have a seat that'll take you all the way from newborn baby up to a 6 or 7-year-old. That's the mode that you would see for the toddler. And then if you release the seat belt, spin it round, fold it back like that, it'll take a newborn baby upwards. You put the seat belt round the back of here, and there's an additional nice idea that the lap strap comes across and doesn't foul with the belts on here. A really good safety aid. And finally, a car telephone. But this one's got an added dimension. It'll do one of three things if it detects that your car is being broken into. It'll either send a message to a central monitoring station open 24 hours a day, or it will patch into your own pager system, or it might even call you at home if you so desire and say, "Oi, the car's being nicked."
One of Land Rover's trusty old workhorses. They used to be known by the length of the chassis, 110, 90, even 88. Now they're all going to be called Defenders. And Defender gets the new turbo diesel engine we first saw in Discovery, more powerful and much smoother than the old unit. Now in its 21st year, the Range Rover continues to set sales records for the company, both in America, where it seems every star in Hollywood simply has to have one, and in Europe. Now, the big question about Range Rover is how sales of new and second-hand examples will be affected by the Land Rover Discovery. Noel's been driving the latest example from that range.
Now, this is the new 5-door Land Rover Discovery. And before I say anything about it, can I say in my own defense, I do find it very difficult to criticize cars in this sector, off-road vehicles, because the buying decision is going to be based upon what you want the vehicle to do. And let's face it, they're very versatile. Do you want it to tow? Do you want to be able to put the hood down and pose? Or do you in fact simply like the fact that you're sitting up very, very high and you can feel a bit superior to other road users? There's also another consideration. Is it going to be the only car that you operate, or will your finances run to more than one vehicle? In which case, I have to say that for me, the Land Rover Discovery is the ultimate family car, and I would be very happy to think of my wife with the children on the worst winter's evening driving a car like this. You feel as if you're in command, sitting hopefully above the spray. You feel solid, as if you've got a lot of metal around you, the kids strapped in the back. The 5 doors means you've got greater accessibility now. You want to take anyone else for a ride, then you can open the back door and there's 2 more seats there. They've got their own belts with them. They're extremely well designed. I'm not 100% happy with the styling of the Discovery. I quite like the body shape, but it does seem to be an awfully long way off the ground. There's a lot of air in those wheel arches, and I think even if it means you have to forsake some of its off-road capability, I'd quite like to see it sitting a little lower. But having said that, let's face it, most people that buy cars like this never get them muddy, and if they do go off-road, they're hardly ever likely to explore its full capability.
You remember that old expression, go to work on an egg? Well, how about going to work in an egg? This extraordinary vehicle is the Toyota Previa, and it's their replacement for the very successful Space Cruiser. If you want to give a lift to 8 close friends plus their luggage, this vehicle can do it. And they'll sit on 2 benches rather than an old bench and armchair design. But it isn't just on the outside that this looks strange and different. There's some amazing technical innovations too. You'd never guess, for instance, that the engine is at an angle of 15 degrees, practically underneath the driver's seat, so this is almost a mid-engine car. So if the engine's under the driver's seat, I hear you ask, how do you get to it? Well, the answer is that they run a drive shaft forward to under the bonnet, which powers the fan, alternator, water pump and power steering pump. And all the main reservoirs are here as well, so you can get at the water, the fluids and the oil. So you don't have to worry that you're going to get garage bills just to check your oil levels. The old Space Cruiser was criticised for its handling, but this is much improved. That mid-engine helps, as does all-round suspension. And despite its size, the all-round visibility is pretty good too. And as a safety factor, none of the passengers in the back can get out on the driver's side, because there aren't any doors there.
From Volkswagen comes a new Transporter and Caravelle range, having its world launch here at the Motor Show. Now, this was the most successful commercial vehicle in the business. It was launched some 40 years ago on the chassis of the old Beetle. Of course, this version is radically different. The Audi-derived engines are mounted up front, driving the front wheels. People are well catered for in this carrier. Comfortable individual seats with armrests. This seat folds forward for a picnic table. Perhaps a fraction less luggage room in the back than the old Transporter, but more depth because, of course, the engine isn't under the floor. Not quite as flexible in the arrangements as perhaps the Espace, but you can get 5 people in the back here and still have room for luggage. There's very little wind noise on the move thanks to the slippery new shape, and because the weight of the engine is now up at the front, the vehicle's much more stable, especially in crosswinds on the motorways at speed. And because you're sitting behind the front wheels instead of over them, it's much easier to get in and out. But you have to ask, have Volkswagen sacrificed some of the character of that original wonderful microbus?
How about this? This is Renault's new Magnum truck. And at 503 horsepower, it's the highest powered truck on the European market. It's too bad to climb up. Well, apart from all that horsepower, the first thing you notice is the space in here. It's big enough to live in, and of course the drivers do. It's got a flat floor, room for a double bunk, and a lot of headroom, which Renault have achieved by taking a space that's normally occupied either by air or by aerodynamic fairings and converting it into headspace. And by rounding off the corners, they reckon they've still kept it aerodynamically sound. Well, that's all very well if you've got the odd 63,000 to spend on a new truck, but if you'd like to make some adjustments to your existing fleet, how about giving them the body kit treatment? And this truck has had the full works with a side skirt, a front air dam, and perhaps most importantly, the smoothing of this area between the cab and the box. In road trials, this little dot has given fuel-saving results of between 20 and 25%, which could mean that the kit pays for itself inside as little as 2 years. Trucks, of course, have got a vital job of work to do. The trouble is, they tend to be the things you're stuck behind when they're clogging up the town's traffic. But this concept offers a very neat solution. This truck and trailer can carry 4 small boxes, which can be easily and swiftly unloaded to be collected by a small, town-friendly sized van all ready for local delivery. Now, isn't that a good idea? Let's hope it catches on.
Now, one of the cars that's currently reversing the trend in downward sales figures is Rover's 200 series. The waiting lists are already rather long, and they're set to get longer with the introduction of the 3-door range. There are 4 models in the range. 2 of them have the 1.4-litre engine, and then 2 with a 1.6-litre unit. This car has got the twin-cam, fuel-injected, 16-valve Honda engine, giving it an incredible 130 brake horsepower. And to further endorse the competition image of the GTI, Rover Group have just announced the creation of its own racing championship. And 30 identical cars will be competing at UK circuits and on the continent, doing their panel-beating best to entertain the crowds.
Having its world launch here at the NEC is the Audi Coupe S2. It's the latest in a long line of Quattro coupes that dominated international rallying in the mid-1980s. Well, this is the fastest production car that Audi have ever built, a maximum speed of over 150 miles an hour, 0 to 60 in around 5.7 seconds. How do they do it? Well, under the bonnet, a new version of the 2.2-litre 5-cylinder engine developing 220 brake horsepower. As you'd expect, for over £29,000, nice leather interior, and an interesting touch. They've gone back to the 30s for their instruments with a white background and black letters. Audi's big V8 saloon has had a slow start in the UK. There's already been a major specification change, so there's only about 60 on the road. But this is the V8 racing car that's been dominating the German Touring Car Championship. In fact, dominating to such effect that they've now weight handicapped it out of the lead, and it's running midfield, much to Audi's annoyance. Of course, a lot of manufacturers get into racing to boost the image of their sports cars.
The actual star of that series was, of course, Patrick McGowan, who has endorsed this limited edition car that you see here, but he insisted that he has a car for himself. Can I give you the keys to the car?
The most famous Lotus 7 driver ever, Patrick McGowan, the original prisoner, collecting the keys of his car. Well, this is the latest version of that car, and I must say, I wouldn't mind collecting the keys of this one. It's certainly come on over the years, not just in the lines of the body, although they're pretty enough, but under the bonnet as well. The engine's made by Vauxhall now, and it's a 2-litre 16-valve one, which produces 175 brake horsepower on either leaded or unleaded fuel. Now, this results in a car which is quicker than ever. How about 0 to 100 miles per hour in only 13 seconds, which is pretty responsive. These always used to be rather Spartan inside, didn't they? But not anymore. Look at this. It's all padded and it's all real leather, too. Can certainly compete with the other performance cars at the show. Speaking of performance, the manufacturers of this car insist that anybody under 25 who buys one has got to go on a high-performance driving course before they get behind the wheel. It's included in the price, but a lot of the over 25s take them up on it too. It's such a good idea. It would be great if other manufacturers followed suit. Very reassuring if you saw a powerful car coming up in your rear-view mirror to know that the driver behind the wheel could really drive it.
The Ferrari stand is an excellent example of elegant simplicity. Here, the cars speak for themselves. Indeed, Ferrari don't engage in advertising. They believe that their participation in the super competitive world of Formula One speaks volumes for their products. New to Birmingham are 2 models, the 348TB and this, the 348TS. The S stands for Spider. The detachable roof panel goes behind the seats, and to the rear of that is a V8 engine developing 300 horsepower. The sad thing about this car is you can't get one. The order book was closed a year ago, and it's full for the next 5 years. And I say it's sad because that also disappoints the people at Ferrari. They do not want to see their products falling into the hands of the speculators. They want to see them being used on the open road. However, okay, you can't get one of these, but there now is an alternative.
Think of Honda and you'll probably think of reliable cars coming pretty quickly off the production line and selling just as fast too, but you wouldn't exactly put them into the super sports league. That's all about to change. This is the NSX, and with it Honda's out to rival the Porsches and Ferraris of this world. It's an extremely powerful car and it's classy enough to look very at home in these stylish surroundings. I have to say that when I first got into this car, I did feel rather daunted by it. It's got a 3-litre V6 24-valve engine with an astonishing 274 brake horsepower, which is a lot of engine. And from what I know of performance cars, they're a bit like race horses, rather wild-spirited. You need to tame them and let them know who's boss. You also need a good set of muscles. But Honda say anybody who can drive a saloon can drive this car, and I have to say they're absolutely right. It's extremely comfortable, and I don't feel daunted by it now. You might be surprised to learn that the car hasn't got a turbocharged engine, but that's all part of Honda's overall concept for the car. It's built to be extremely light, it's got an aluminium body, and it handles extremely well. And to people who say there's no point in having a car with a performance engine like this because there's nowhere on Britain's roads that you can drive it, I'd say, well, that's not really the point. Just try overtaking in this and you'll pretty soon appreciate the benefits. This is not the car for anybody who wants a low profile. They only come in red, silver or black for a start, which are hardly the colours that are going to fade into the background. And what's more, Honda are only making 150 of them. But if you do fancy one, you'll have to move quickly because 130 of those are already spoken for. But if you've got between 50 and 60,000 pounds lying about, and you like a bit of power behind you when you put your foot down, this could be the car for you.
Back in 1973, one of Britain's leading industrial figures, George Turnbull, went to Korea to help them establish their new motor industry. Now, the plant that he helped set up produced the Pony car, and it first came to Britain in 1982. Now there's a new range from Hyundai, the X2s. They come as 5-door hatchbacks, 3-door hatchbacks, and 4-door saloons. They're powered by 1.3 and 1.5-litre engines derived from Mitsubishi, and there's a new range of transmissions, 4-speed on the 1.3 and a 5-speed on the 1.5. There's also a new 4-speed automatic transmission that makes motorway cruising a bit more relaxed. Now, the 1.5 has multi-point fuel injection, and that means it gets catalytic converters as standard. In July, they introduced the S Coupe model. Very nice lines, a high level of equipment, power steering as standard, and all for under £10,000. Small wonder they say they're sold out for the rest of this year.
The Malaysian car company Proton have made the most amazing inroads into the car market since their launch at the motor show in 1988. They now hold 0.5% of the British market, and that's more than Jaguar or Saab, but all that from a cold start. And the second generation of these cars are going to be launched next January. Not remarkably different from the cars that are on the road now. The engine's slightly more powerful, a little quieter. It's a new front grille, but alas, still the old badge. Let's see what they've done inside. Well, it looks as though Proton have been listening to some of the criticisms that were levelled at them when they launched. It isn't nearly so plasticky in here. The seats have been remodelled too. They're a lot more comfortable. There's a new central console and a new steering wheel. On the 1.5 model, you get power-assisted steering. But there aren't a lot of extras with these cars, but they are still bargain prices. After all, if you can get a top-of-the-range one of these for under £9,000, Proton looks set to hold on to that healthy slice of the car market.
Mini Cooper is back with a vengeance! Yes, the Mini Cooper, made famous throughout the world thanks to its race and rally successes in the 60s. This is a special limited edition car, and it's one of 2 cars that you can win in our Radio Times competition.
And this is the other car, Rover's latest 200 GTI. All you have to do is identify some famous cars and places and then reorganise their first letters into a winning word. The full details are in the Radio Times. It's out on sale now. Good luck.
Citroen's XM was voted European Car of the Year in 1990. And for Citroen, it's their great hope on the executive market. Now their new flagship is launched. This is the Citroen XM V6 24-valve, 200 horsepower and a 3-litre engine. Selling at just under £27,000, it looks serenely impressive because, of course, Citroen's strong point has always been its active ride suspension. Peugeot are, of course, the owners of Citroen. It's all part of the PSA group. Now, in the past, they've tended to be far more conservative than their Citroen counterparts. But this is their contender to the XM, and it shares the same floor pan and much of the mechanical components. Now, the 605 is on sale for the first time in Britain here at the Motor Show, but of course it's been doing extremely well in France. At £16,000, their strongest contender is probably the 2-litre injection 4-cylinder engine, but of course for the higher echelon of executives, there's the V6. This is also available in 24-valve form as a direct contender with the Citroen XM 24-valve. But it has a more luxurious image, leather interior, traces of wood, and a high-level equipment fitted as standard.
The Swedish manufacturer Volvo introduces a new model to the top of its range. The 900 series will replace the 700 series at the upper and the middle ends of the market. The main external difference really is a new, more rounded rear with revised lighting and a new bumper. It looks less severe, rather smoother, but still distinctively Volvo. It'll be available in estate form as well as saloon, and it goes on sale next month. Only the 740 GL models with the more angular rear end will remain in the company's 1991 lineup. There are now 3 new engine options, 2.1, 2.3 and a new 3-litre. And there's a new 4-speed automatic gearbox too, with 3 settings, winter, sport and economy. Stopping power has been improved by new, larger disc brakes, and the designers have increased the headroom by a huge 20 millimetres, that's the width of a pound coin, and reduced the drag figure to 0.35, which gives a much softer, but some might say blander look. The exterior, though, is notably lacking in too much black trim or other styling gimmicks, but then you wouldn't really expect those of Volvo, would you? There aren't any major changes inside. It retains all the well-tried safety and comfort features. All the petrol engine cars are fitted with Volvo's special catalytic converter system called Lambda-Sond. The 960 offers the all-new aluminium 3-litre 24-valve, developing a very quiet 204 bhp. But it also has an integral child safety seat fitted in the back. The boot's got the new flat floor and increased luggage space. Altogether, it's a less angular and much more refined look. The prices range from £16,725 to over £28,000 for the 960. There's nothing surprising here, but Volvo drivers are going to love it.
A few years ago, it would have been a real shock to see crowds 10 deep around the Vauxhall stand, but things have changed very much for the company, all because of one car, the Lotus Carlton. And this really is the bad boy of the show, because recently it's incurred the wrath of the police chiefs and the advertising standards people, simply because it's not a Ferrari, a BMW or a Porsche. It's just a 4-door family saloon car from those awfully nice chaps down the road at Luton. However, the heart of the matter and what really causes the storm is this engine. 6-cylinder, 3.6-litre, 24 valves, twin turbocharger, and it shoves out an incredible 377 horsepower. Very nearly double the Ford Sierra Cosworth. It's once you get inside the Lotus Carlton that you realise that maybe the engine might suit a top-line sports car, but this is very much a family saloon. There's oodles of leather around, wood trim, and a general feel of a very solid car. If you want to thrill the family, you've got a 6-speed gearbox, and this thing will do 0 to 60 in just over 5 seconds. If you want one, you're really going to have to search for it. They're only going to be introducing into the UK, 150 a year, and it'll set you back £48,000.
I'm afraid you're showing your age somewhat if the name Aston Martin Volante means anything to you, because they haven't used that name since the 60s. But this year sees the launch of the new Volante. It's a convertible, strictly a 2-seater, and everything's done for you, really. All you have to do is drive it. The hood's powered hydraulically with little motors to slot it into the header rail. It's leather, of course, and a walnut fascia. What else did you expect? And even a Wilton carpet to add the final touch of luxury. The chassis has been made 40% stiffer to compensate for the lack of the roof panel. But if you're planning to drive this at speed with the roof down, it's inadvisable to wear a hat, because at 155 miles per hour, the likelihood is you'd lose it. Mind you, I suppose if you just spent £150,000 on the car, you could probably run to another hat. Underneath here is 330 brake horsepower worth of engine, and just in case, perish the thought, anything should go wrong with it, you know who to come back to, because each Aston engine is made by just one person, and they have to put their names on it. So stand up, Dave Butler. Now, I've had a good look round the cars in this show, and I haven't found another manufacturer guaranteeing quite such a personal touch.
I reckon there isn't a car at the show that can compare with this new model from Rolls-Royce. Well, it's nearly new. The Silver Ghost has just undergone its second rebuild in its history. The first was in 1948, and would you believe it's done 650,000 miles?
You know, it's a real treat to come to the motor show and see all these shiny and powerful new cars, but I have to say, if we all looked after our old ones as well as Rolls have looked after this, we wouldn't need new ones, would we?
And we wouldn't be using up the world's resources building new ones either.
Actually, this car is very economic. In 1907, it went on a 15,000-mile endurance run. It didn't break down. It cost the company £281, 8 shillings and 4p.
Too right. Don't forget more motoring on Thursday nights on BBC Two when Top Gear returns for its autumn series.
Now that's it from our look at Motor Show 90. I hope you've enjoyed it. From the three of us, bye-bye.